Geology 204, The Fossil Record. Notes from the Fossil Record Project, Section 105. Team members Artem Muchnik, Benjy, Chad Siegel, Danny Salsbury. Date of completion May 9, 2015. For the paper, an introduction with the bibliographic information for the paper visible. Authors Ty Kubo and Magino O. Kubo in their paper, Dental Microwear of a Late Triassic Dinosaur Form, Silosaurus apolensis, sought to analyze the teeth of a dinosaur ancestor to glean insight into its eating habits. Kubo and Kubo were particularly interested in Silosaurus because, as established by Nesbitt in 2011, the Silosauridae was considered the closest sister group to dinosaurs. This picture illustrates Silosaurus's potential places relative to Dinosauria on the tree of life. While the Kubas did not develop this cladogram, they based their analysis off of it. Because of Silosaurus's phylogenetic proximities to Dinosauria, researchers are interested in its ecology, eating habits, and behavior. Authors Kubo and Kubo drew from past research by Zick, which showed that Silosaurus was an herbivore. However, a common ancestor of dinosaurs had been proven to be a faunivore. In that sense, Silosaurus's dental morphology could instruct the evolution of Dinosauria's jaw and eating habits. Most paleontologists think that Silosaurus was about 2.3 meters long. Silosaurus was very light and a fast runner. The Kubas used a method called dental microanalysis, or DMA, as their method of working out whether Silosaurus was an herbivore, omnivore, or faunivore. DMA uses electron microscopes to identify microscopic wear and tear on teeth fossils. Scientists can use this type of analysis to learn a huge amount about the specimens they study, from how their jaws moved to their diets. Scientists were generally interested in this question: what can a DMA of Silosaurus tell us about their diet? However, they showed a particular interest in two subsets of their broader research question. These subsets are: 1. What can we discern about Silosaurus's jaw movements from a DMA? And 2. Does a DMA of Silosaurus support the hypothesis that Silosaurus was an herbivore rather than a faunivore? To test this question, the Kubas conducted dental microanalysis on 14 Silosaurus apolensis teeth from 6 different jaws. The teeth were cleaned with acetone and cotton swabs under a stereo microscope. Molds of the teeth surfaces were made with polyvinyl siloxane, a quick-drying liquid that leaves a rubbery mold in its wake, and then sputter-coated with platinum. The molds were then viewed at 300 times magnification using a scanning electron to examine the scratches, including the scratch distribution and direction. The researchers used two primary variables: mean orientation, mean vector, which quantified the angular distribution of the scratches and their mean, and the angular dispersion of scratches, which quantified the angles of the scratches. The researchers followed Watson's test for statistical comparison for angular data and the Mann-Whitney U-test for the length data. They conducted the statistical tests on a series of sophisticated analysis programs. The researchers were interested in two primary takeaways from the DMA. What could they infer about Silosaurus's jaw movements, and what could they infer about its diet? To analyze jaw movement, the researchers measured their results against other researchers' results for similar style DMAs on close relatives of Silosaurus. They also conducted an anatomical analysis of the scratches preserved on both the facet and non-facet microwear. The process for analyzing diet was more complex. The researchers note that no study they know of had quantitatively compared Silosaurus's DMA to those of extant mammals. The researchers reasoned that because there are no contemporary relatives to Silosaurus, comparing its DMA to other living animals to learn about its diet is a useful tool. Thus, the researchers compared the results of Silosaurus's DMA and to the DMA of 9 different feeding types of extant mammals. These mammals' DMA feature overlapping quantitative variables, which were the basis of the researchers' comparison. The researchers also included a table of DMAs of Mesozoic archosauromorphs, but there were few overlapping useful variables, so the second comparison did not significantly figure into the researchers' results. Results of the analysis and what it implies. The critical piece of evidence came from the implications of the scratches on the upper and lower teeth, which collectively show wear facets produced by contact of teeth on food and then teeth on teeth. According to the Kubas, vegetation could only scrape the lower teeth when it was trapped between the upper and lower teeth. This gave the researchers insight into Silosaurus' jaw movements. They were able to deduce that both the texture and orientation of the scratches reflected the motion of the jaw rather than the texture of the food. The jaw movement was described as simple in a single direction without tight occlusal, which means contact between teeth, control. The comparisons between the DMAs of extant mammals proved more useful in working out Silosaurus' diet. They found that the mean scratch length most closely matched mixed feeders, browsers, and fully frugivorous mammals. These are herbivorous mammals, which led researchers to believe that Silosaurus was an herbivore rather than a frugivore. The researchers did temper their analysis somewhat. They noted that while Silosaurus was not faunivorous, they couldn't rule out the possibility of omnivory. They noted the possibility of omnivory could not be confidently ruled out, and more studies on microwear patterns of extant reptiles are needed for a more precise understanding of Silosaurus' diet. They also noted that their results matched previous conclusions that Silosaurus was herbivorous based on gross tooth morphology, another kind of dental analysis. Finally, they noted that Silosaurus' very simple jaw movements meant that it couldn't exploit floral resources because of any sophisticated jaw movements, its other traits, like stance and neck flexibility did that. It had relatively little competition for food, so it didn't seem to need evolutionary advantages in its jaw mechanics. Some concluding thoughts of the analysis are given. The evidence presented in this paper is useful in that it confirmed previous evidentiary inquiries into Silosaurus' diet, and offering some new evidence for its relative basic jaw movement. However, while the researchers stressed the importance of those findings for understanding Silosaurus' role as a close relative of the Dinosauromorpha, as well as its own evolution and habitat, they did not discuss how their findings contributed to some of the larger questions in the field. That kind of discussion would have been useful, given the interesting and revealing results of the DMA.
The DMA of Silosaurus showed that it had simple jaw movements and that it was likely an herbivore but potentially an omnivore. A larger contextualization of this finding would have been particularly useful.